David Brooks I think you wrote recently about the Tea Partiers are basically, it's what they're against that unites them. So I'm curious, what are you guys for? And do you ever believe that government can be an instrument of good?
Well, firstly, there are core responsibilities of government. I think the Tea Party movement would be the first to acknowledge that. The defense of our country, the defense of our borders, in the minds of most Americans has been pitiful. It's astonishing to most Americans that we can put a man on the moon, but we can't defend our southern border against illegal immigration, and that's troubling. I think you would find that a government programs of last resort are reasonable. I mean, in this healthcare debate, people said, well, this is going to help the poor with healthcare. No, that was what Medicaid was designed to do. We already have a program that was done to do that. So yes, I think there's a role for government. The point is that it has taken on this just lavishly expanded role. And one of the things we support in the Tea Party movement is something called the Enumerated Powers Act, which is current legislation in Congress, not likely to pass under this Congress, but hopefully a future one, that would require Congress with each piece of legislation to justify where in our Constitution they're empowered to take the steps that they're taking. So for instance, when they say you're going to be required, whether you like it or not, to take out a health insurance plan, whether you think that's a good idea or a bad idea, is there something in our Constitution that permits the Congress of the United States to do that to Americans? Or is that ultimately the definition of a government saying, we've disbanded that Constitution as an ancient document that doesn't have relevance today? We believe the Constitution of the United States has relevance. We believe it's the foundation on which American greatness was built, and we feel this country is moving in a direction that absolutely contradicts the vision of the greatest American founders of our country.
Do you think there are limits to what the government can do for the underserved population in this country? In other words, this country is the only industrialized nation, as you know, that doesn't offer universal health care. And obviously I'm assuming this isn't something that you all would support, the idea of universal health care. But, do you feel that there is a moral obligation? You mentioned Medicaid, but what about for people who may not qualify for Medicaid, but for other reasons,
I think that's the other
can't
myth,
afford health care?
And I think fortunately now you're starting to see the Tea Party movement, especially with all these polls being taken much more seriously. The point is we have definitive ideas for reforming the American healthcare system. We feel that the state regulations that preclude people from buying health insurance from other policies is bad. We want to expand that level of choice. We feel the whole idea, as John McCain first proposed in 2008, of having a healthcare system that can only be provided by an employer is an antiquated idea. I'm not sure that makes sense in 2010.
You want more competition with the insurance companies?
We want more options available. Insurance is ultimately about a risk pool, and there's plenty of risk pools in this country, so those can be expanded. And I think one thing to consider also is that in the debate of this current legislation, which has been done behind closed doors, in secret, without the input of the American people, in absolute disregard to the sentiments of the American people, which has been, I think, to the growth of the Tea Party movement, but to the detriment of the nation, is the fact that we haven't talked much about the quality of our care. How do we improve the quality of health care in this country? Has expanded government coverage of care typically been the solution to that? No, it hasn't. And I think our other concern is that ultimately we're in a situation, to your broader question, of how do we address the needs of the American people. We feel growing our economy, which now has not grown in 2 years, and it doesn't look like it's going to grow in any foreseeable moment, is the ultimate and first priority that we have. And that means reducing the tax burden on American people, making this a country where companies want to do business, not that they want to move to India or China. Being more serious about providing a culture of growth and opportunity to people. And government's intervention over the last few decades, not just this administration, but over the last few decades, has been an encroachment on those liberties to the point where it's become not a particularly great country to do business in too many cases. And it's one of the reasons that we've seen outsourcing, we've seen companies moving abroad, companies that in the 1950s viewed themselves as American corporations, now don't even dare describe themselves that way. And I think that that's been to the detriment of our country. We believe that we can restore some of those principles. This isn't beyond salvation, but that's the key to doing it.